Hi there, it's Christy with the Chirp YouTube channel. I am doing a speaking engagement later this month, and the topic is signs that a child may be developing slower than is typical and how you can support those developing skills in the home. So I thought I would pull out little chunks of that presentation and share them with you, my online audience. By the way, hello, it's been a while since I've sat down and done a chatty style video here into my library with you. That is because so much has been going on the CHIRP curriculum front. If you watched the previous two videos, you will know that the CHIRP curriculum is going digital. Yay! And that means that there has been a lot of work behind the scenes for me as I've worked on all of the technical things that make that rollout possible. I also got to go to Minnesota to visit my family, including two very, very cute little nieces, 6 and 4 years old. They are precious. I'm so happy I was able to spend time with them. And yet I'm also happy to be back here doing the work that I love. In Arizona this time of year, it's usually cooling off, so I'm very happy about that. All the windows are open as I film this, so there may be some little noises of birds or the fountain in my backyard. Hopefully no landscaping noises will filter through to you. Sometimes they do, and that's a little annoying. But still, the open windows are worth it. The first developmental skill that I want to talk about is not going to seem like a skill at all. It is engagement. Engagement is an interested and curious involvement with the surrounding world. This is the very first signal that a child is able to learn from her environment. If a child is not engaged, that child is not learning because that child is maybe inward focused or just isn't able to learn from her surroundings. That's a really bad thing. It's not the end of the world because there are a lot of strategies we can use to pull kids into the world, to encourage engagement, and to decrease the offensive stimuli that might be preventing that particular child from being more engaged. It's very important to address this at a very young age. We are talking as soon as you notice that you want to do kissy faces with your baby and she turns her head to the side every time. Or you get an excited face and your baby cringes and starts crying. These are signals that your baby can't handle the kind of stimuli that are coming in her direction. Obviously, I can't tell you about your baby because I don't know you and I don't know your baby, and I am a person on the internet. While I have a lot of skills and education and experience in this area, you are unique, your family is unique, your baby is unique, and you need someone who's in your life who can help you assess and address the issues that you have concerns about with your child. Please don't think, though, that your child should get to the age of 4 or 5, maybe even start kindergarten, and you have been concerned about these things all along, and that it will be fine if you wait. It might not be fine if you wait, because there are very important developmental windows in a child's life early on. And the earlier we intervene, let me put it this way. If you're driving along a road, but you're actually supposed to be over here, but you've been driving this way the whole time, the longer you wait to turn around, to go the right way, the more ground you have missed and the longer it takes to get where you were supposed to be going. So if we start out here and we're supposed to be there, but we start going this way, and then we realize, oh, going the wrong way, whoop, and we go the right way, that's a lot less time intensive and a lot less difficult than it is if we get all the way up here and then we have to turn around. And usually we can't just go cross country like this. We have to go all the way back and start. start from the bottom. We don't want your kid to have to do that. So the sooner we intervene, the better. When I'm talking about intervening, your pediatrician is probably not going to be your most helpful ally in this process. Pediatricians are trained to see physically what is going on with your child. They want your child to be the right weight, the right height, or at least within the boundaries. They want your child to be eating. Sometimes they're a little concerned if your child doesn't learn to speak at the right time. But there are all sorts of skills that need to be developed before words come out that our kids are sometimes missing, and pediatricians don't know about those because those are not their specialty. Please see a speech-language pathologist as early as possible if you see difficulties with engagement. Engagement is a big deal, and you can tell that a child is engaging or not engaging very early on in life, in the first few months, in fact. If your child is 2 years, 9 months and up in the United States, you can request an early childhood screening from your local public school. They won't necessarily start you in school until your child turns 3 because the law says that 3 and up need to be covered under the free and appropriate public education law. A lot of school districts will do the testing when they're 2 years, 9 months old. The school districts that I worked in did that testing at 2 years, 9 months because they knew it would take a little while to get the results, to figure out what the child's needs were, and to make the appropriate placement. So they wanted to be ready when the child turned 3. If your child is in that age range and you're noticing concerns now that maybe you didn't notice before or maybe you didn't address before, now is always the best time to address those things, whether it is now and your child is 4 months old or it's now and your child is 3 years old. It's always the best time right now. So call up your public schools and say, I would like a preschool screening, please. They will do the screening. If they see things in the screening that concern them, then they will do an evaluation, a preschool evaluation, at which time they will either write some goals for your child if they think your child needs some, and then place your child in a preschool classroom, or they will tell you the issues are not significant enough that we're going to intervene at this time. But because you have concerns as the family, you still need to do something. I recommend a speech-language pathologist. If you think there are other issues outside of that, talk about that with your speech-language pathologist and keep digging to try to get to the bottom of it because you don't want your child to be missing out on these important windows of development. What does it look like if your child is not engaging? I explained how that might look as a baby. They turn their heads away. They cry a lot if someone is trying to interact with them. As a child gets older, it may look like closing their eyes, flapping their hands, plugging their ears. It may be walking around the edges of a room and not being willing to interact with people at all. It may look like climbing up on the counter to get something rather than asking for something or pointing. It may look like reaching for things instead of asking for help. It may look like having tantrums because he isn't getting what he wants, even though he's never communicated what he actually wants. There are a lot of different behaviors that are a sign that the child has not been engaging in the world in an interested and curious way. Signs that your child is engaging in the world in an interested and curious way are excited facial expressions, joy when interacting with you or with other people, happy expressions, happy vocalizations, and then the development to words, of course, and actual verbal communication. Play with other children or with you. All sorts of social interaction come under this heading eventually as children develop. I have lots of videos on engagement, on what it is and how it works. So I will put a lot of those in the information box down below this video. Right now, I want to talk to you about some of the ways that you can help if your child is having difficulty engaging. And once again, please get professionals on board with you. They will help you in your specific situation I am going to give you sort of an overview of general things that help with engagement. The first one is find what the child is interested in and get involved. We have one little guy in my classroom right now who is really working on engagement. He, in fact, would prefer not to engage with other people, and we would prefer to engage with him because, number one, he's delightful and we want to get to know him better. Number two, we want him to enjoy this world a little more, and this world is full of people, and so we want him to realize that people are fun and people can bring him a lot of joy. We can enjoy the things that he enjoys. We can provide him comfort or help when he needs those. Number three, we want him to be able to function better as a citizen in this world. We want him to be able to eventually comfort and help other people the way that he has been comforted and helped. We want him to be able to participate in the world, in his family, and in his church, and his neighborhood, and his school, and all those places. So, obviously, we have big dreams for this little guy. He does not know about these dreams yet. They are a secret to him. He is very interested at the moment in a puzzle that has animal and farm implements on it. So he will take out the piece and put it back in. Take out the piece, put it back in. It's not an interactive activity. Nobody is meant to interact. In fact, when we do, he gets very upset. But we do it anyway. And how we do it is he takes out the cow and we say, cow, or we make a moo sound. He takes out the tractor. We say, tractor. He takes out the sunshine and we say, sun. We comment on what he is doing. I did this for probably a good 15 to 20 minutes right in a row a couple of weeks ago. Chicken. I hear a pig. Chicken. That sounds like a chicken. Cow. Moo. No. Moo. That's pretty exciting. At first, he was really frustrated that I was commenting on his activity. He did not want me there. He did not want me interacting with him. He wanted to do this alone in his own little person bubble. I don't want to leave him in his bubble because the bubble walls get thicker and thicker the longer you stay in your bubble. And I want to get in his bubble and eventually bring him out with me because the world is a fantastic place. Yes, there are things that will hurt us, that will be too loud or too prickly. There are people who won't understand us, but it is still better than remaining in that lonely bubble. So, the way I get into his bubble is by commenting on what he's doing. As I'm commenting, at first he had a little bit of a moment a few times, and I backed off and I said, hands off, Christy. I modeled for him what he probably was thinking. And then I jumped right back in again, very gently, very quietly. If he made noises, I lowered my voice. I used less facial expression. I backed off physically. I moved away a little bit if he got too upset. But eventually, and it didn't take very long, like I said, 15 or 20 minutes, by the end, he was holding pieces and kind of waiting for me to label them or to make the animal noise. And this is a nonverbal child. He started making animal noises. These are the only purposeful and understandable noises that we have heard from him yet. So we were very, very excited. This is the kind of interaction that begins to happen as we step into the child's world, as we get in their bubble, as we pay attention to what they're interested in. Obviously, every kid has very, very different interests, and I can't do a video for you on how to get involved in every single one of those interests, in every single one of those activities. I can and will and have put videos and books down below that will explain the process of figuring out how to enter the child's world, how to see the child's interests and get involved in them, because that is the one key that I want you to take away from this video. If a child is not engaged, we can't just let it go. We need to get in there with the child and make that non-interactive activity interactive in some way. Here are some questions you can ask yourself as you are working on engaging better with your child and wooing your child into wanting to engage with you. Number 1, am I working within an activity that's enjoyable to my child? Is this something my child picked out and wanted to do, and I am involving myself in my child's preference? That is going to work. Me saying, we're going to do puzzles and getting down the puzzle when my child is really interested in playing train is not going to work. Number 2, am I enticing the child to take the initiative and then responding? So I'm not prompting my child, pick up the sun, pick up the cow, moo. The child is doing what he does. I am commenting. I am making it more fun, making it more interesting, turning up the dial a little bit, and making myself a very fun part of his play activity. Number 3, does my voice and does my face show that I expect the child to respond to me? I have to be pretty excited, as long as it's not overstimulating the student, of course. But I have to say, moo, and expect that the child is gonna look at me. I need to say, truck, and expect that eventually I might be able to say moo, and the child might lift up the cow and show it to me or hand it to me. Eventually, I do expect that. It didn't happen our very first time playing this game, but eventually I think it will. And I need to have that expectation that the child can and someday will respond to this interaction we're having in more of an interactive way. Number 4, am I tailoring this interaction to meet this particular child's sensory system? This child needs to move around a lot, and he needs to not have too loud of noises or too many people very close to him. So I was working with him to kind of demonstrate how to use this particular strategy, and his regular volunteer was sitting pretty close by as well because she was watching. And I needed to tell her, I need you to move back because he's getting too agitated with 2 of us right here kind of on top of him. So I can be maybe a foot away or 2 feet away, but anyone else needs to be farther away than that because we're too many. It's too much for him. So we need to make sure that we have the puzzle maybe on a table and he can lift something up, do kind of a drive-by, and then come back around, circle back around and do another one. Sometimes he's able to sit for longer periods of time and do some sort of an activity, but we can't expect that of him. There are some weeks where he can't sit at all. He needs to be constantly on the move. And we need to be interacting with him those days too, not just days where he can sit down and play with the puzzle. We need to be creative at all times, looking at what is interesting the child right now and how can I make that interactive and engaging. Also, we need to be careful with this little guy, as I mentioned about his ears. We need to make sure that our voices are not too loud, that we don't do clapping or hooray at loud volume because he will shut down. We need to be very cautious of that because we don't want shutdowns. We want opening up and blossoming. Number 5, am I involving as many senses as possible? I could have just started picking up animal, truck, sun as well. As he was picking one up, I could pick up another one. But instead, I chose to add a word and a sound interchangeably, depending on how I felt that one moment. And of course, I made my face very exciting. So he would want to look at my face. I don't want to keep telling kids, look at my face, look at my face. That's dumb. I want them to want to look at my face because I'm interesting, because I might be making a silly face, because I might be wearing a weird hat. I wasn't wearing a weird hat that day, but you never know, in my classroom, I could be. And kids need to want to tune in to other human beings because human beings are unpredictable and they might do something that is interesting that they might want to see. Interesting in a good way. So you want to involve sound, sight, touch, smell, movement, while being aware that there will be sounds or smells or sights that will be overstimulating or that won't be stimulating enough to keep the child interested. We need to play within those boundaries. That is the number one thing you should be on the lookout for if you are assessing your child or your student's development and wondering how it's going. How is this child developing? Let's observe. This is the number one thing I pay attention to when I assess a child or when I meet a new student of mine. And it is the most important thing that I can notice because engagement is the spotlight for learning. Wherever I am engaged, I am getting information from the outside world and I am able to learn from it. If I am not engaged in the world around me, I can't learn from it and I can't be interacting with other people, which is sad. Both of those things are sad. I hope this video gave you a lot to think about when it comes to the issue of engagement and how you can work with your own child or with a student that you have, or maybe with a very cute little niece or nephew that you have in your life or a grandchild. I know there are lots of you watching who have kids in your life, kids you love, and you just want to know how to be better at supporting them, at helping them. You want to know how you can better interact with them and engage with them and show them love. And I appreciate that. I love the comments that I get about, hey, I really appreciated this video because my grandchild is working in this area and this gave me some things to think about. Thank you for those comments. If your name is Angela and you contacted me from Dallas Baptist University, your email address was crazy, and when I tried to write you back, I couldn't. It just bounced back to me. So please email me again, maybe from a different email account, or call me, whatever you need to do. I really do want to get in touch with you. Thank you to all of you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.